On Jaffe Is Not Famous today, I'm joined by the Jack Myers, author of the Tao of Leadership. We're diving into Taoism, AI, the future of leadership, and why legacy media is crumbling. Want to lead in the AI era? This is the conversation you cannot afford to miss. And by the way, is it Tao or is it Tao? I never know. I'm about to find out. Enjoy the show.
It's not TV, it's HPO.
It's not TV, it's HPO.
Hope, positivity, and optimism.
Hope, positivity, and optimism.
Joseph Jaffe is not famous.
Joseph Jaffe is not famous. Now.
Hello, how y'all doing? Hi, Joseph. I hear that you have a show, Not Famous, and wish you good luck with your show, and I thank you what you're doing for your audience and your people that you're trying to make impression on their life. So good luck with your show, and thank you for all you do.
Am I being overconfident? Am I becoming complacent about complacency?
I think you are.
Oh, he's not the Messiah, he's just a very naughty boy.
Yeah, I've got big ears.
Brian doesn't want to see anyone else. Piss off!
That's the one. Because you literally complete me, and we complete each other.
You've obviously encountered discrimination in your own life by virtue of being Australian.
Hey, Manuel Kant was a real pissant who was very rarely stable.
I don't want to get too gushy, but I might just be saying you complete me, Dean. P&G now stands for Pritchard and Good.
Branding is not a bad blind date.
Look at you! You are insane!
How did I do that?
You're
How
insane!
Did I do that?
You're insane!
I was having so much fun just with the introduction that I almost forgot to do all these transitions because it worked so well today. I love it. You know, I love the fact that after 800 episodes, I'm still learning, I'm still improving, I'm still getting better. There's that little bit of improvement, and you know what? It just energizes me so much. Today, I've been playing around with these little intros that set the scene. I actually pre-recorded that in advance, and I was able to load it up as an intro as opposed to alt-tabbing. And because look, I'm a one-man band, and you know, it's that classic, I don't know, Dick Van Dyke with the cymbal and the harmonica and the drums and all the different instruments. I love it. I love the fact that one human being, one individual can put on the show completely by themselves. And yes, of course, it's amateurish, but you know what? I'm not famous. So you know what? You don't like it, I don't know, go and watch Jon Stewart or someone like that. But anyway, you know, Jon Stewart would never get Jack Myers because Jack Myers is too famous for Jon Stewart. Jack Myers just wrote the Tao of Leadership. Apparently it's Tao as opposed to Tao. So is it the Dow Jones or the Tao Jones? I don't know, but I'll tell you one thing. Jack Myers is a living legend. Forget about legacy, that legacy media. This is a man that has a legacy. He doesn't need to leave a legacy. He is a legacy. He has forgotten more about media than all of these 22-year-olds with their little Excel spreadsheets will ever learn. Damn it. These are fighting words. And we're going to talk about, we'll talk about men, we'll talk about leadership, we'll talk about Tao, we'll talk about media, we'll talk about whatever the hell he wants to talk about. As always, I start with my why statement. As a teacher, facilitator, and coach, I help high aspiring entrepreneurs, owners, and their leadership teams get unstuck, return to growth, and become forever changed. This is how I do the unstuck part. Well, you're watching it, you're experiencing the unstuck. I started the show when people were stuck at home, quite literally and also figuratively stuck in general March 2020. And I hope I bring a little bit of hope, positivity, and optimism to you. I'm also a business and leadership coach, and I work with small and medium businesses, their leadership teams, to return to growth, because God knows, I mean, I did write a book called Built to Suck, Jack, and I'm pretty sure that these large behemoth and monolithic Goliath type corporations, I'm pretty sure there's no coming back for them anymore. And then finally, forever changed, how a global pandemic changed my direction, my purpose in my life. This is my sixth and maybe final book that I wrote that really talks about how you don't need a virus in order to make the change. You don't need to be laid off. You don't need divorce. You don't need a midlife crisis. You can actually make the change for yourself through amor, veritas, and vigor. Love what you do, be true to yourself, and stay the course. I also dabble in a little bit of social audio because I do have a face for radio. And at the moment, I've been doing a live read of Who Not How, a really, really interesting book. Basically, when you come across an obstacle in life, instead of obsessing over the how, all you need to do is find a who. Find a who, delegate to them, and move on. And if you can't make these shows live, which I do at the moment in Clubhouse, you can always just subscribe to the pod at bit.ly/collective cafe to go. But now it's time to sit down, relax, and listen to my little monologue, which is called today The Legacy of Legacy Media. I'm not going to go into this in too much detail because I truly, truly do have an expert in this category. But it dawns on me, what's that old line, which is news of the demise of legacy media or greatly exaggerated. I'm not sure that that's true. I think legacy media may have died an ugly and gruesome and grisly and painful death. But wait, I don't know that it's quite the end. I feel a resurrection. I feel a return. I feel some kind of a rebound. I think we're witnessing this in life. It's the pendulum swinging, the what's old is new again. The fact that this is history, this is life. History just keeps on repeating itself. There are pendulums, there are revolutions, there are cycles. Maybe, just maybe, I don't know. Am I being foolish? Am I being naive to think that there might be some kind of a comeback, some kind of a revolution of the revolution? I don't know. All I do know is that the revolution will not be televised, to quote Gil Scott-Heron. I will tell you, I did, again, write a book called Life After the 30-Second Spot. I'm just seeing some of these trends starting to manifest themselves. We've certainly seen it now. It seems like every 4 years, another massive pendulum swinging from one extreme to the other, to the other, to the other. But this, I don't know, backlash maybe of social media, this return to privacy, this ability to want to unplug or detox, or perhaps just get back to relationships. I'm even finding it now when I do my own business development that I'm subscribing to pick up the phone. Just pick up the phone, stop sending emails, stop hiding behind keyboards, stop hiding behind technology. The power of trust. Who do you trust? Is anything real anymore? Do we know what's real? Am I real? Am I an avatar? Is Jack real? We're starting to question everything, and that's a good thing, especially as we see the dawn of AI and automation and deepfakes and all of this doubt or self-doubt that makes us question everything that we knew to be real. But when we do that, perhaps we start to ask the real questions and go deeper and start to question everything in order to be able to perhaps not start anew, but maybe return to the beginning and get back to basics. Now, I said a lot, and maybe I said nothing, but I can tell you one thing. Jack Myers knows a thing or two, and I can't wait to hear what he has to say. Jack Myers is a pioneering author, business advisor, and speaker whose visionary insight into emerging trends and deep expertise on business models have made him a trusted advisor to leaders of many of the world's largest and most innovative companies. He's written 5 books, including The Tao of Leadership, his new book, Harmonizing Technological Innovation and Human Creativity in the AI Era. His TED Woman Talk on the Future of Men has generated more than 1 million YouTube views. His career includes executive positions at CBS, TV, ABC Radio, and he's the founder of the Myers Report and Media Village Education Foundation. He's a graduate of the Cy Newhouse School at Syracuse University and NYU Steinhardt. Jack and his wife, Rhonda Carnegie, share 5 children and 5 grandchildren to date and reside in Tucson, Arizona, Santa Barbara, California, and Hudson Valley, New York. And today he's in the virtual studio. Welcome to the show, Mr. Jack Myers.
I cannot live up to this introduction, and I certainly can't live up to the opening a gambit of your other guests, but I'm going to try. So 800 episodes, Joseph, and I finally made it. Thank you. I'm honored to be here.
You know, I've said this in every single show. You are the best guest yet, and it cannot be proven wrong. Somehow every guest is better than the previous one. So there's no doubt that everyone that came before you was just, everything in life has been leading up to this.
And everyone who comes after me will be better than me. So we have something to look forward to.
I refuse to admit that at all. I refuse to. Now, Jack, we're going to get into everything. We'll go from sublime to ridiculous back to sublime. But I mean, truly prophetic that your previous book was all about men, the future of men on trial. It seems the verdict has been rendered, and it looks like, I don't know if the jury was hung, if the men were hung, I don't know. But I will tell you one thing, it looks like they got off. Looks like men are okay.
No, I don't think so, actually. I think we're seeing the unfortunate reality that I predicted when the book was published in 2016. It was February 2016, when many of us thought that Hillary Clinton was our next president, and it was a warning that women had been outpacing men in high school graduation, college level graduations, master's programs, doctoral programs, legal programs. And men were struggling to play catch up, and there was a backlash looming if women really didn't, and society didn't begin embracing those men who were embracing being feminists. An interesting statistic is when I wrote the book, the number of young men who were of college age, over a third of them self-proclaimed feminists, and that had been steadily increasing. Today, less than 20% of men college age self-identify as feminists, and it's on the decline. So the book really was a warning that we needed to really embrace, support, and recognize the realities of masculinity. And we didn't. And we've seen the backlash, and we've seen the result of that backlash, right? We're seeing it right now.
Yeah, I mean, truly prophetic warnings that should have been heeded and that weren't heeded. I've spent, you can imagine, in 800 episodes, so many conversations talking about the progress that we've made and celebrating that progress. And now it almost feels it's like a nightmare of chutes and ladders where we're going all the way back and starting again. I mean, I don't know if it's like Sisyphus and the rock, but it does feel like all that progress has been absolutely eradicated.
Joseph, I went back 3,000 years to Taoism to develop the theme around my new book. So, we can go back 3,000 years and we can see the conflict of the dynasties that led to the creation of Taoism. And they're not unlike many of the realities we're confronting in society and culture today.
Well, we're going to do that, but first, we're going to take a little bit of a moment to play a little game that I like to call Two Truths and a Lie. And by the way, you talk about AI. This entire song, this whole song was created and performed everything by AI.
Tune and lean and don't you dare miss a pitch. It's Joseph Jaffe, not famous, but you'll see.
I mean, I like it.
We twist, we turn,
we turn in search of reality. Jack Myers, are you a liar? We will find out, because one of these three interesting insights is a lie and two of them are the truth. Are you ready to play?
I am ready.
All right. So the first truth or lie, we're not sure, is that apparently you were nominated for both an Academy Award and an Emmy, and AI has been very kind toward you both. So tell us about what you were these both for the same thing? I want to hear everything.
They were for the same thing. It was when you could four-wall a movie in theaters and qualify for an Academy Award. My co-producer was Denzel Washington, who I got to know pretty well. He was filming at the time, so it was, and he falls into character. And that also led to a number of other awards, and it got me close to my lifetime ambition to win an Academy Award. But being nominated was pretty special.
Was it an honor just to be nominated, as the saying goes?
It's not quite the same.
Exactly.
But look, I still say it, and you're using it.
I mean, well, assuming it's true. So now here's the thing. Did you go to any of the awards, the shows?
The Emmy Award. My Denzel got to go to the Academy Award that year. So.
Well, listen, the fact that you can actually refer to him as Denzel as opposed to, Mr. Washington, I am impressed if this story, in fact, is true. But here is another interesting little tidbit that apparently you were an Eagle Scout at 13 years old.
Is that me at 13 with a mustache? Is that me?
You know what? AI does its best. That's all I can say. For the amount of money that I pay my AI assistant, which is, I think, $19.95 a month, you get what you pay for. So this is you as a
very mature
13-year-old. So tell us about being an Eagle Scout. What did you learn being an Eagle Scout that set you for life, or something that you have carried with you throughout your entire career?
Well, in my 40s, I saved someone from drowning using all the skills that I learned in life saving. It was like a flashback. I can start a fire, which, trust me, and these days I am not going to do. It was really, there were some bittersweet realities of becoming an Eagle Scout at 13, because I spent a summer in Boy Scout camp, and it had its moments, both positive and negative. But being an Eagle Scout is something. My dad was an Eagle Scout. It's something I'm very proud of that heritage, and carried being an Eagle Scout. It's a certain amount of be prepared, and just because I knew that this was going to be truth or lie, I wanted to put the truth forward. A scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. So
that's brilliant, because if that is in fact a lie, then you've prepped for it really, really well by reading it off. So be prepared. I mean, there is a lesson as well. Be prepared.
If you look at the logo of my Media Village Education Foundation, the logo is "Be Prepared." That is our mantra.
Well, I mean, when we talk about leadership a little bit later, it's a beautiful little thread to come back to, or a little tie down, right? An anchor, this idea of being prepared for anything, especially in this world of constant change. So here is the third and final interesting tidbit about you. Apparently, you were an extra in Apple's 1984 commercial, the famous Super Bowl spot that aired only once. I would say consensus that this was the greatest commercial of all time. And there you are in the commercial. Clearly, the production team and the production budget of Joseph Jaffe Is Not Famous is worthy of this incredible Photoshop. So tell us about this story.
Well, if you actually had the picture with me in it, and that picture does exist, you know, I had to put on like a bald skull cap, which they actually had to color to blend with my skin. I was working at CBS at the time and selling, and Chayat Day was one of my clients, and Jay Chayat I got to know reasonably well, and knew that this commercial was coming. It was going to be a Super Bowl commercial. It was going to be a big deal. And I asked them if I could be there for the production. And, you know, they had a number of people who were kind of filling in. And I was actually giving people coffee, and they said, "Hey, come on, we need a couple extras." And they put me in the outfit and the clothes, put the cap on my head, you know, took my glasses off, gave me some makeup to, you know, kind of darken me. And you can actually, I can see me. If I were to try to tell you where I am in the commercial, you'd never spot me. And that was the goal. You were invisible, and the goal was for you to be invisible. But it was being part of that commercial was, I won't call it a claim to fame, but it gives that whole era of the Apple computer so much more relevance to me, and that reality of being part of that moment in not just Super Bowl history but cultural history.
No doubt.
Is part of myself, who I am today.
All right, so that is two truths and a lie. If you think you know which one the lie was, I'm confused. Eagle Scout, extra in Apple's 1984 commercial, nominated for not just an Academy Award, but an Emmy. Just go to bit.ly/2T1L_Jack Myers, and one person will win 1 million shares of the Trump meme coin, so which will be worth nothing by the time this airs. So anyway,
well, I'll give the winner a copy of my book as well, an autographed copy of my book. So you'll have to help me pick a winner,
which will be worth more than the crypto coin at the time. But anyway, let's get back to the subject at hand. First of all, I think we'll get into the Tao of Leadership in a moment. Let's talk about media. Let's talk about legacy media. Let's talk about the mainstream media. Let's talk about fake news. I mean, Jack, you've seen the evolution, the devolution, the revolution. I mean, I just want to hear your point of view from a real knowledgeable, credible expert in terms of not so much, I guess, where we are, but where you think this is going to go and what the future looks like. I know it's like a pretty big question so early, but I feel like it's a really relevant one at this time. And I will say one more just caveat is I really exist at a time now where I see something and I have to preface everything I say by the phrase, if this is true, because I don't know at all what is true and what isn't true. I just don't.
Well, that's perfect after Truth and Lie.
Indeed.
I'm depressed by the media. I've spent 50 years of a career dedicated to media, and particularly and especially to television and what we fondly call legacy television. I began early in my career. My formative career experience was with CBS television. In 1993, I wrote a book, my first book called Ad Bashing: Surviving the Attacks on Advertising. And my opening chapter talks about how advertising is at the core of media and media is at the core of capitalism. And as I look at the reality of the world we live in today and the capitalistic society we live in today, maybe I should have advanced the end of advertising. I find it very depressing, the role that media has played, or let me rephrase that to say the failure of media to have a role in the realities that we're confronting today and being a source of solutions. My master's degree is in media ecology with Dr. Neil Postman, who wrote Amusing Ourselves to Death, Public Discourse in the Age of Show Business. And he forecast and warned us of a media culture that became entertainment, where news depended on ratings. And we have devolved, our industry has devolved, where it focuses only on its own, ironically, on its own survival. And as a result, it's not surviving. Now, I continue to be dependent today. Media Village is dependent, and the Myers Report is dependent on legacy media. It's still where I spend most of my business career, even today. But nonetheless, I find it truly depressing that the media, and especially the television business, has failed to address, confront any of the world's greatest problems, and has created problems by allowing the political ecosystem to evolve the way it has, without any checks or balances. Now, having said that, Joseph, I also want to say that the legacy television industry has been confronted by three transformative, perfect storm realities, and have been in an existential crisis of commoditization, led by technology, programmatic advertising. It's failed to respond effectively to the being in a supply-demand economy where, for most of its history, demand exceeded supply, and for the last decade or more, supply has exceeded demand, and that disproportionate spread has gotten worse and continues to get worse. And as it becomes more transactional, more fragmented, it becomes more commoditized. As it becomes more commoditized, it furthers its own ultimate death.
So, waiting for but wait, but here's the bright. Is there hope? Is there a new hope? Is there the possibility of, even as I discussed in my soliloquy, a backlash or a backlash to the backlash, a return to the Walter Cronkite, the trusted advisor, this belief that what we hear, in fact, is the truth?
Thank you for having such a great virtual background. In the AI era, we have not seen Disney, Comcast, Paramount, Fox. Where are they, along with Microsoft, Apple, Google, in the meta, in the investment in AI? They're not investing in AI. They're not part of the investment culture. If they had been investing, Wall Street would not have rewarded them for it. So they continue to go down a path that's not in the future, that's investing in the past. Now, that's not to say that the content side of the business is not, I won't say it's thriving from a profit point of view, because every one of the major streamers except Netflix is losing money. So that's not a viable business model. And they're not investing in an AI based future. So it's hard for me to look more than a decade, and say that the great brands will continue to be represented in the way they are today. That's not to say that Disney as a theme park or Universal or even Paramount and Fox as brands won't be around, but they're not going to be the part of the great media ecosystem when most people who are being born today, who are growing up as collaborators with AI, I call them the Nexus generation. They're the nexus between being part human, part machine, fundamentally in terms of how they're growing up and what they'll grow up with. They're not growing up with the broadcast television industry.
So I want to kind of double tap on two things that you spoke about. The first is this idea, and I'll be a little crass just because it's my show and we have a little bit of fun here, and we're men, damn it. A little bit.
We're the future of men, you and I.
Definitely, old. As my friend Mitch Joel would say, stale, pale, and male. That's us. Who wouldn't? Revenge of the Nerds. At least me.
I'm proud of you. As an Australian, you refer to a Canadian, so you're staying true to your heritage.
Oh, Jack, I'm South African. You know that. In fact, I'm Australian.
Australian. I do know that because I have a story I hope I get to tell about my trip to Cape Town.
Yeah, but you know what I just did is I caught myself in actually realizing, like, I mean, this is the sad part. The sad part of it is that I came to the US, and as a white male South African, talk about being embarrassed of being from South Africa in terms of thinking about the apartheid years. Now I'm even more embarrassed to say I'm South African because of a certain person who comes from South Africa who's basically run amok. But anyway, I'm Australian. Hello, mate. Toss another shrimp on the barbie. How about that? From now on, I'm Australian. It seems like in terms of fair and balanced, which of course became this, wildly ironic phrase, right? Fox News was fair and balanced. That the solution was to put someone on the left and someone on the right. Remember the Hannity and Combs and even thinking about how CNN does it as well. But it seems like and this is the crass part, right? You just have to be a master debater, a master. He's a master debater in terms of winning the argument, and that becomes the arbiter of truth. Whoever can argue the strongest, the most vehemently, the most consistently, the most almost narcissistically. So this has become the arbiter, no? Being a master debater.
I would say that those who control the media and get the most attention are the tellers of truth. It's the attention economy, and Trump has as soon as Trump declared for president, and it was actually the third time he declared for president, coming down the golden elevator, I knew that he would be a contender, and he is the ultimate media guru. He is the ultimate controller of attention. He knows how to do it. And even today, as we're talking and we're seeing RFK Jr. Being grilled ineffectively by the Democrats and propped up by the Republicans, it's taking control of the media by doing so much. And Elon Musk is a part of that. And it's, I hate to say it, but it's been brilliant. It's been brilliant, and it's taking us down a path of plutocracy, however you want to define it. But we are on a path that the media industry is failing to have a backbone or step up to its historic role as the arbiter of truth and the ultimate winner of the debate by being able to control the attention. In the days of Joseph R. McCarthy and Edward R. Murrow, CBS could control the attention. They had more attention than McCarthy. Today, and that's part of the demise of media, is that there is no media that continues to dominate other than Meta, YouTube. Those are the controllers today of truth.
I feel like if people went back, you could see the little dots to connect in this conversation, the crumbs that you've so masterfully laid out. Because I think even just making the connection between media and capitalism and survival and thrival, and attention, it really isn't that complicated when we think about it's all about impressions and hits and eyeballs, and it's still just about the same thing. It's really nothing new. Again, what's old is new again. And you're either doing it desperately to survive, or you're doing it because guess what? You woke up, you went outside, and there was a beautiful money tree outside, and as soon as you picked $100 bill, another one just replaced it. And so, greed
There's
is
the
good.
money tree. Thank you. That's an incredible segue, which I truly appreciate, because I am an optimist and I do have hope. And you asked me, where is that nugget of the positive? But wait, there's more. And that is to go back 3,000 years to Taoism and to look at the reality that this has happened before. And the consistent reality is that when you have periods of transformation, massive technological transformation, there is also historically also been a commensurate explosion of creativity. And that's what I'm excited about. And that's what I'm waiting for. If you look back to the printing press, it was accompanied by the Renaissance. If you look back at every major technological transformation up through the internet, which spurred YouTube and one-to-one communications and huge amounts of creativity, AI is a creative force. It will be a creative force. I believe that the solution for television and legacy media is fundamentally to rethink the whole advertising model and to view it from the point of view of how it got started, how the upfront got started in the 1950s, when one sponsor was associated with one television show, to look at the Super Bowl, how important advertising is to the Super Bowl, how important advertising is to the Academy Awards or to the Grammy Awards. Advertising is a sponsorship model. It's not a fragmented 5-second, 1 second, 3-second, 30-second commerce module. It's creativity. And when advertising can come back to being a creative force, if I were running a network today, it was always my dream when I worked at CBS. I aspired to be Bill Paley, to be president of CBS. I would eliminate advertising. It's the first thing I would do, is reinvent the advertising model. I would rethink our partnership with brand marketers and how we can bring brands to the forefront. So I do think that we are going to see a renaissance of advertising. It's going to recreate itself. It's inevitable, along with AI, that there will be a creative force. And I also recognize, and it was one of the 3 inspirations of my book, the other being the speed of technological change is going too fast for us to navigate and manage, but also that the corporate model that 95% of corporations globally sustain was the concept of the corporation that Peter Drucker built out of the General Motors production line mentality of World War II. And that's still the model of corporate America, corporate around the globe today. And we're operating in a siloed, decentralized model that can't work in an AI world. So my book is about 3 fundamentals. It's about the speed of technological change and how we react and respond to it effectively. the commensurate shift of creativity, an explosion of creativity that's looming with AI, and also a complete redevelopment and rethinking of the corporate model around what I call the blueprint for leadership in the AI era. And that's built on the 5 fundamentals of Taoism, which I hope we can talk about as well. So I'm excited about the future of leadership, but we need leaders in order to have leadership. And that's what I'm failing to see in the television industry today.
Okay, so this is very interesting to me that we're talking about creativity as a solution or a antidote to the commoditization of, of the world. We're thinking about new business models. The future of advertising is no advertising, but now the third one is leadership. Now, of course, I wrote a book called Built to Suck, the inevitable demise of the corporation and how to save it. And maybe one of the things that I didn't write about was leadership. So let's look at a quote. This quote comes from actually a previous guest on the show, very interestingly enough, Lao Tzu. So when Lao was on the show, he said this, and it just really connected with me. A leader is best when people barely know he exists. So, we go back to Chainsaw Dunlap, the idea of L. Dunlap and this idea of leading through fear and leading through, being an autocrat or a
Right.
dictator to servant leadership. And it seems, again, perhaps we're back in leadership by fear, but clearly that is not anything that Lao Tzu would have spoken about. So I'd love you to comment on and certainly talk about the principles of Taoism and how this impacts and influences what you believe leadership should be.
Well, tying in with the leader is best when people barely know he exists or she exists.
Lao was just a complete misogynist.
Yes.
I mean, what can I tell you?
Part of Taoism is action is best when inactivity is the best form of action. Now, I'm not sure how to translate that into a response to the leadership by fear, but harmony there are 5 core principles of my book, and they're built on the 5 core principles of Taoism: harmony, flexibility, balance, stability, and integrity. And you can look at all of them through different prisms and interpret and read them in different ways. The way I interpret them is harmony is the integration of creativity and technology. Flexibility is innovative thinking, but with disciplined action. Balance is leveraging machine intelligence. And stability is resilience. And integrity is recognizing that there is an inevitability of the need for organizational consolidation and breaking down of silos, and how we can do that with integrity, empathy. I believe that the core tenets going forward are built on those 5 principles, and that's how I developed the book. Looking at action and leadership through fear, it's exactly the opposite of what will have the results that I think most Americans who are democratic, progressive, conservative, MAGA, all share a certain set of hopes for what we can evolve to. Many of them are in conflict, but fundamentally, I think they all come back that if we apply these 5 principles to corporate leadership, that those corporations that apply these fundamentals that I've built and developed and structured the book around will be successful. And I think that success will include a real focus as we evolve inevitably into a much more technologically focused age. Those companies that focus on the human component, the humanistic aspects of empathy, ingenuity, intuition, and most importantly, creativity will be the ones that succeed.
I'm going to give you the first official air horn. I really love how you've taken these 5 tenets or principles and versioned them and created this very relevant and resonant present day leadership triangulated North Star, if you will. Let's talk about 2 of them. This is what's known as the Kenyan fist bump story, the power of connection. Love you to tell us. We'll focus on this is the principle of harmony. So I'd love to hear the story.
I would love to tell that story. It's one of the great moments of my life. It was actually South African. It was at the Khayelitsha Township in Cape Town, so an area you're familiar with.
Yeah.
And my wife and I were there just a couple of years ago. It was during COVID, and we got the opportunity to be taken to a small school in the Khayelitsha Township. A group of around 50 young children, all sitting on the floor, kindergartners, pre-kindergarten, first grade, around that age. I have a great photo of it, and they are so incredibly cute, and they're sitting there. Now, white people walk in, and the only white people they've seen have been officials. Usually it's a doctor giving them a vaccine. So they're a little wary of white people walking in, and of course, we don't speak any of the same language. There's one little boy, and I just noticed his fist is kind of up in the air. So I see that, I go over and I give him a little fist bump. And synchronously, as I give him the fist bump, 50 little fists go up in the air. And they're all sitting there, and they're all looking at me with their fists in the air. And I went to each and every one of them, and my wife followed me, each and every one of them, and gave him a fist bump, looked him in the eye, and made a connection. And I wasn't a foreigner at that moment. I wasn't a white person at that. I was a person who they connected with through that simple gesture. And it really taught me the idea of harmony. Harmony in leadership means recognizing people don't follow your title or who you are or who you propose to be. They follow the relationship, the connection that you can make with them. And it was such an emotional moment. I was in tears, and it was extraordinary. Thank you for asking me that.
I love that story too, and I've also been able to pick up so many interesting thoughts about, instead of cognitive dissonance, cognitive consonance, and even the idea of harmonic resonance, and just understanding that really at our core we have a wavelength, we have a certain frequency, a humanistic frequency, which is a universal language. Yeah. I love all these things. Let's talk about another one. Let's talk about this idea of portals, not bridges. And this, with respect to another thing that in terms of the future of leadership. Tell us about this.
Well, this is a chapter in my book, Build Portals, Not Bridges. Organizations, when you think about the future and you think about especially technology, you think about going through a process of innovation, and you build and risk. You look at the risk-taking factors, you look at the considerations, and there's a path that you take, and it's a bridge from the past to the future. And there are many stops along that bridge where you test, you explore, you learn. AI and machine intelligence is coming at us so quickly. We've seen AI 2022, 2023. Yesterday's version of AI has already been not replaced or displaced, but advanced by DeepSeek. We're seeing that we can't afford to build bridges. We have to build portals. Satya Nadella built a portal at Microwave in the way that he, built. We may not yet believe that Meta and the shift to the metaverse and Zuckerberg's decision to invest heavily in the metaverse, that is and was a portal. And I think ultimately it'll prove to be one that pays out. We don't have time. By the time thinking is too slow today in organizations, and by the time you finish building a bridge, the destination's already changed. So you've got to move much more quickly than organizations today are built to move.
I like the concept a lot because the bridge, when we think about building bridges, we think about crossing chasms, we think about a linear direction, we think about this idea that it's really a one-way traffic. And maybe you can go across the bridge backwards and forwards, but there is a path and a journey, whereas a portal implies transformational. It implies this idea of popping in and out, in and out. It's almost instantaneous. And it seems to me to be not only more fluid, but more frequent. When we think about a model that I've used constantly throughout my entire career and with people that I've spoken to, is the model, the answer is the best of the old with the best of the new, and to reject the worst of the old and to ignore the worst of the new. And that implies constantly going backwards, forwards, backwards, forwards, backwards, forwards, many times a day, many times over and over again. Not this idea of we've crossed the bridge and we're never going back. And I feel like that's what comes across really strongly with the idea of portals, not bridges.
It's an important concept. It's an important organizational structure concept, because it really means also that you have to rethink all of your personnel, all of your management, your leaders, and you need new leaders who are able to adapt. And this next in 30 years, as we look at the next 30 years and into the 50s, into 2050, the generation of leaders who are now being born, just like you look at the generation of leaders who were born into the internet and who grew up with social media, they're fundamentally have a different DNA. They approach things very differently. I don't think the current generation of leaders, sadly, who are your age and my age, we can have wisdom. We can try to apply that wisdom. But it's the leaders who are just being born today who are really going to be responsible for the century from 2050 to the 2200. 2150 to 2200. And I think that's where we need to be focused today, on how we build and train those leaders and leave them organizational models, governmental models that are healthy and built on the future rather than being built on the past.
So whether we're talking about a leader today or a leader being born today, or, kind of an old fart like myself or someone in the past, there is one common thread, and that is the struggle to let go. At EOS, where I do my coaching, we call it letting go of the vine, delegating. This control. We're control freaks by nature. We're micromanagers. All of our bad habits as leaders. Letting go is almost, it seems like 80% of the battle when it comes to real leadership by example. You connect this idea to one of the Taoism principles of stability. So tell us a little bit more about why.
Well, stability isn't about rigidity. It's really about creating an environment where people feel empowered to think, to act, to innovate, to build portals. Most of our organizational models today are built on how we take the past and apply it to the present and to the future. And in a world of AI, think about electricity. Think about the creation of electricity and the flickering light bulb. And when Edison created the light bulb, and it was okay, we were able to turn nighttime into a flickering version of daytime, but people didn't think of the microwave oven. They didn't think of the electric car. They didn't think of electricity as the powering force it is today. Well, that's where we are with machine intelligence and AI. We're at that flickering light bulb stage. So when we think of letting go, it's not that we're letting go of darkness. We're embracing lightness. We're embracing the harmonization and the opportunity that AI creates that will evolve into this new world. How do we get there is to not hold on and sustain what we have. Now, the advertising, we talked about advertising, capitalism, commoditization, supply, demand. The fundamental business models that we still live with today in media and advertising were created by J. Walter Thompson in the 1800s to sell newspaper ads. And it was built on he wanted to sell the creativity. So, he sold the newspapers by developing the creative opportunities. I think it's the same ultimate solution of the creative solutions, but not holding on to those fundamental business models that have gotten us from there to here, but have also brought us devolved and deconstructed and fundamentally been destroying the legacy television and media business. Did that make sense to you? Did that hold?
Did it hold? Yeah, it did hold, and I think what it does is it parlays into maybe the final thought that I want to quiz you on, if you will, and I'm going to do a little mini rant to set it up as well. Diversity, equity, and inclusion, or news of DEI's demise. I don't know if it's accurate or greatly exaggerated, but I want to make a statement, which is two statements to just turn it over to you. Number one is if you're a leadership team or an executive team, and let's say 75% of your target audience is female, and you have a bunch of old white guys on your board or in your C-suite, to me, there's a problem. It's not about DEI or not DEI. It's about lack of representation in terms of actually understanding your target audience. I just find that to be dumb and bad business sense and common sense. The other, and the argument against, is this idea of, in a meritocracy, you're hiring the best people. But how on earth, are we actually proving that the old white guys are in fact the best in the business? So it's a false positive. So I feel like the voices now for DEI are few and far between, and I would love to hear what you have to say about it.
Well, anti-wokeism is more destructive and dangerous than wokeism to begin with. Now, my business is built on having had a history of being able to have a great ability to look at cultural, generational, and technological transformation and envision where organizations can and should go and what leadership should and shouldn't do and be in order to succeed. The George Floyd moment took a lot of companies that were not invested in diversity at their core and moved them into a reaction, which we're now having a reaction to that reaction. And I think that will pass. But in the meantime, we have a political environment that's making it very hard to invest in inclusion. I simply changed the word from inclusion, from diversity, to leadership. What is leadership? Fundamentally, leadership is recognizing that, number one, you're dependent on your people. Number two, you're dependent on being able to use technology in a harmonistic way, and for your people to apply it in ways that support them, not replace them. Or if it does replace them, that it replaces them in ways where you're advancing the positive aspects of organizational culture, which are fundamentally require stability, flexibility, harmony, balance, integrity, ethics, lack of bias. All of these fundamentals that we've grown up with, the golden age, are are still part and parcel of what an organization and what a leader has to be able to lead. And right now we're seeing a reaction of pulling away from the core fundamental truths of what leads to personal growth, business growth, human growth, national growth. We're seeing a reaction that will fail. Unfortunately, it may get worse before it gets better. But as an organizational leader, as a corporate leader, I believe the fundamental truths of Taoism still apply. And organizations need to navigate through these very turbulent waters with wisdom and applying those fundamental truths without removing the core values of humanity. And that's where I believe the opportunities are. Success will come when leaders focus on the humanistic aspects of leadership and understand that in a world of machine intelligence, in the era of AI, machines are going to be leading themselves, taking care of themselves. They're going to be smarter than the people. So the leaders can't be smarter than the machines going forward, the technology going forward, but they can be smarter than those who would bring destructive fundamental force to the truths that guide us and always have through the age, from 3,000 years ago. They've survived. They'll continue to survive.
What a beautiful, beautiful way to wrap this up. I'm calling it a deal or no deal, right? Diversity, equity, inclusion, and leadership. Leadership according to the 5 Taoism principles. Instead of maybe, let's replace VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous, with harmony, flexibility, balance, stability, integrity, and Jack Myers. How about that?
Thank you. I've had so much fun with you, Joseph, and I'm going to invite you back to my profiles in leadership so we can continue the conversation.
It is my most fascinating area now to focus on, which is leadership. One of the beautiful quotes is, "Nature abhors a vacuum," and that's the essence of leadership. Create the space and let people fill it naturally. In fact, fill the space with a copy of Jack's new book. How about that, right? The Tao of Leadership in the AI era. You can follow him on X. You can follow him on Instagram. You can connect with him on LinkedIn. And, he really is forget about legacy. You are a living legend. And you know who else is a legend? I think if you've watched the show before. We're talking about none other than Chuck Norris. And here's what Chuck had to say about you.
You are Chuck Norris approved.
And we will be back soon. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching the show about hope, positivity, optimism, and if there's time left over, a little bit of marketing with your host, multiple author, and global keynote speaker, Joseph Jaffe. If you like the show, tell a friend or two. Please subscribe to the show. And if you want to get inside news, previews of upcoming guests, and much more, visit josephjaffe.com/subscribe to sign up for the show's newsletter.
And despite the best ministrations of your wife, you still look ugly.